What is the single most reliable predictor of success? Is it IQ? Is it talent? Is it luck? For decades, we've been told that if we just find our passion, the rest will follow. But what happens when the initial excitement fades? What happens when the work becomes hard, boring, or painful? If you look at the lives of high achievers, athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, you'll find a common thread that runs deeper than raw intelligence or natural ability. It's a quiet, often invisible force that operates behind the scenes. It's the ability to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. It's the ability to say no to immediate pleasure in favor of long-term gain. This force is self-discipline. And according to Daniel Walter in his powerful book, The Power of Discipline, it is not just a nice-to-have personality trait, it is the fundamental building block of a life well lived. Walter argues that without discipline, goals are merely wishes. But with it, you can transform your potential into tangible reality. Today on Audiobook Insights, we are going to break down this essential guide. We'll explore the biological reasons your brain fights against discipline, the practical habits that build it, and the mental shifts required to make it a permanent part of who you are. Whether you struggle with procrastination, distraction, or simply staying the course, this summary will provide you with the roadmap to take control. Let's dive in. About the book and author. The Power of Discipline by Daniel Walter enters a crowded field of self-help literature, but it does so with a unique focus on practicality and biological realism. Walter is a writer and researcher who specializes in personal development, productivity, and the science of habit formation. His work is notable for its no-nonsense approach. He doesn't promise quick fixes or magical thinking. Instead, he roots his arguments in psychology, neuroscience, and philosophy. This book was written for anyone who has ever set a goal and fallen short, not because they lacked the desire, but because they lacked the consistency. Walter's core premise is simple yet profound. Discipline is a skill. And like any skill, whether playing the piano or learning a new language, it can be developed, strengthened, and mastered through the right strategies and consistent practice. He wrote this book to demystify discipline, stripping away the guilt and confusion, and replacing it with a clear, actionable system. His credibility comes from this synthesis of scientific research and timeless wisdom, making complex concepts accessible to the average reader. Chapter by chapter summary. Let's walk through the core ideas of the book, chapter by chapter, following the logical progression Walter lays out. Chapter 1, Self-Discipline, the Biological Argument. Walter opens with a crucial foundation. The enemy of discipline isn't laziness, it's biology. He explains that our brains are wired for survival, not long-term success. Thousands of years ago, the brain that sought immediate rewards, food, safety, rest, was the brain that survived. This is governed by the limbic system, the ancient, emotional part of our brain. In contrast, self-discipline resides in the prefrontal cortex, the newer, logical part of the brain responsible for planning, impulse control, and decision-making. The problem is, the limbic system is faster, stronger, and requires less energy. When you choose the donut over the salad, or the couch over the gym, you aren't weak. You are experiencing a biological tug of war. The key takeaway here is to stop fighting this reality. Instead, we must understand it. By recognizing that the impulse to give up is just a biological signal, not a character flaw, we can learn to pause, engage our prefrontal cortex, and make a conscious choice. Discipline isn't about having no impulses, it's about choosing which impulses to act on. Chapter 2, The Benefits of Self-Discipline. Once Walter establishes the challenge, he paints a compelling picture of the reward. This chapter is dedicated to showcasing why building this skill is worth the effort. He argues that self-discipline is a keystone habit, a habit that, once established, triggers a cascade of positive changes in other areas of life. The benefits are extensive. First, it provides a sense of control. When you are disciplined, you are no longer a passive victim of your circumstances or emotions. Second, it reduces anxiety. Much of our stress comes from tasks we are avoiding. Discipline eliminates the procrastination anxiety loop. Third, it builds self-esteem. Every time you follow through on a commitment to yourself, you send a powerful message: I trust myself. I am reliable. Finally, it's the engine that turns potential into achievement. Talent without discipline is just potential. Walter makes it clear that the disciplined person will almost always outpace the merely talented person over the long term. Chapter 3. The Status Quo Bias: Why We Resist Change. Even when we know the benefits, why is it so hard to start? Walter introduces the concept of the status quo bias. This is our brain's inherent preference for the familiar. Change, even positive change, is perceived as a threat. Our brains equate the known with safety and the unknown with danger. This bias explains why people stay in unfulfilling jobs or unhealthy relationships. It's not that they can't see a better path, it's that the cost of leaving the familiar feels too high. Walter argues that to overcome this, you must reframe your thinking. Instead of viewing change as a loss of comfort, view the lack of change as the real loss. Ask yourself, what is my current comfort costing me in terms of health, happiness, and potential? By making the cost of inaction more emotionally painful than the temporary discomfort of action, you can begin to tip the scales away from the status quo. Chapter 4. A Reality Check. The Dunning-Kruger Effect. This chapter is a sobering dose of humility. Walter introduces the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias where people with low ability at a task overestimate their ability. In the context of discipline, this manifests as overconfidence. We often believe we are more disciplined than we actually are. We make grand plans for Monday, believing we will have superhuman willpower, only to fail by Tuesday. This overestimation leads to a flawed strategy. We set goals that are too big, without a system to support them. Walter's reality check is simple. Assume you are less disciplined than you think. Start smaller than you think you need to. This isn't a lack of ambition, it's a strategic recognition of your current starting point. By being honest about your weaknesses, you can build a structure that accounts for them, rather than one that relies on a false sense of your own capabilities. Chapter 5. Daily Habits to Improve Self-Discipline. Here, Walter moves from theory to action. He argues that discipline isn't built in grand, heroic moments, it's built in the small, mundane choices we make every day. He provides a list of daily habits that act as discipline reps. These include making your bed, a small act of order that sets a positive tone for the day. Prioritizing sleep. A tired brain has a weak prefrontal cortex. Discipline requires a well-rested brain. Following a morning routine. Creating a structured start reduces decision fatigue later in the day. Scheduling your tasks, not just listing them, but assigning specific times to do them. Tracking your progress. What gets measured gets managed. A simple checklist reinforces consistency. The power of these habits is that they are low stakes. They don't require immense willpower, but each one strengthens the neural pathways associated with discipline, making it easier to exert self-control when it really matters. Chapter 6. Tips for Building Better Habits. Building on the previous chapter, Walter offers a toolkit for habit formation, drawing on principles from behavioral psychology. He emphasizes that the goal is to make good habits easy and bad habits hard. He suggests several techniques. Habit stacking, link a new habit to an existing one. After I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. The 2-minute rule, scale down any new habit so it takes less than 2 minutes to start. The goal isn't to do the full workout, it's to put on your workout clothes. The action itself is the victory. Design your environment. If you want to read more, leave the book on your pillow. If you want to eat healthier, don't keep junk food in the house. Make the desired behavior the path of least resistance. Walter stresses that we should focus on becoming the type of person who does the habit, rather than just achieving a specific outcome. It's about identity change, not just behavioral change. Chapter 7. What is hindering your discipline? This chapter is an exercise in self-diagnosis. Walter encourages you to become a detective of your own failure. Instead of feeling guilty when you break a commitment, get curious. What were the specific triggers? Common hindrances include fatigue and low energy. Are you trying to do your most important work when your energy is depleted? Distractions. What is pulling your attention? Your phone? Other people? Unclear goals. Vague goals like get fit are impossible to execute. They need to be specific and actionable. Lack of accountability. If no one is watching, it's easier to slip. Perfectionism. The fear of doing something poorly can prevent you from doing it at all. By identifying your specific obstacles, you can design strategies to neutralize them. If your phone is a distraction, put it in another room. If you're tired in the evening, do your important work in the morning. The solution is not to fight your hindrances with brute force, but to outsmart them. Chapter 8. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. This is a pivotal chapter. Walter argues that the inability to tolerate discomfort is the primary reason people lack discipline. Growth, by its very nature, requires stepping outside your comfort zone. Whether it's the physical discomfort of exercise, the mental discomfort of learning a new skill, or the emotional discomfort of a difficult conversation, progress is found in the place you least want to go. Walter calls this voluntary discomfort. He suggests proactively seeking out small doses of it. Take a cold shower. Go for a walk in bad weather. Do the task you've been dreading first thing in the morning. By intentionally exposing yourself to discomfort in controlled situations, you teach your brain that discomfort is not dangerous. It is simply a sensation that passes. You build your discomfort tolerance, expanding your comfort zone and making it easier to take on bigger challenges without being derailed by the initial feeling of unease. Chapter 9. Focus on the system. In this chapter, Walter makes a crucial distinction. Don't focus on the goal. Focus on the system. Goals are the desired outcome, but systems are the daily processes that lead to that outcome. For example, a goal is write a book. The system is write 500 words a day. The problem with only focusing on the goal is that it can lead to disappointment and demotivation. If you're 6 months away from achieving it, it's hard to feel a sense of progress. However, if you focus on the system, you can succeed every day. You can feel good about showing up for your 500 words, regardless of how far you are from the final manuscript. Walter argues that the system is what's within your control. Goals provide direction, but systems provide progress. Master the system, and the goal will inevitably be achieved. Chapter 10. Zen Philosophy and Goal Attainment. Walter draws on Zen philosophy to introduce a powerful mindset shift, detachment from outcomes. In Zen, suffering often comes from clinging to a desired result. When we are too attached to a specific outcome, we become anxious, and if we don't achieve it, we suffer. He applies this to goal attainment. He suggests that while you should have goals, you should not be emotionally attached to them. Instead, pour all your energy into the process, the action itself. When you detach from the outcome, you remove the fear of failure that often paralyzes you. You can work with a clear, calm mind, doing your best without the weight of expectation. This doesn't mean you don't care about the result. It means you trust that if you consistently do the right actions, the right results will come. And if they don't, you will have the resilience to adapt and try again without being emotionally shattered. Chapter 11. Meditation for Self-Discipline and Focus. Meditation is often seen as a spiritual practice, but Walter presents it as a practical tool for strengthening the prefrontal cortex. He explains that meditation is essentially a workout for your attention. In meditation, you practice focusing on your breath, and when your mind wanders, you gently bring it back. This act of noticing a distraction and consciously returning your focus is the exact same neurological process used in self-discipline. When you resist a donut, you are noticing an impulse, the urge to eat, and choosing a different action. Meditation trains this muscle. It enhances your awareness of your own thoughts and impulses, giving you a crucial gap between the impulse and the action. Walter argues that even 10 minutes of daily meditation can significantly improve your focus, reduce reactivity, and strengthen your capacity for self-control, making it one of the most effective long-term tools for discipline. Chapter 12. Why you should never try and do anything. This chapter is a linguistic and psychological reframe. Walter argues that the word try is a setup for failure. When you say, "I'll try to go to the gym," you are giving yourself a permission slip to fail. The word try implies uncertainty and a lack of commitment. He contrasts this with the word do. "I will go to the gym" is a statement of intent. It removes the ambiguity. He encourages listeners to eliminate try from their vocabulary when it comes to commitments. It's a binary. You either do something or you don't. There is no trying. This shift may seem small, but it's powerful. It forces you to be honest with yourself about your intentions. If you aren't willing to commit to doing it, then admit it's not a priority right now. But if it is a priority, then own it and do it. Chapter 13. Winner or loser, which one are you? This chapter uses stark, binary language to force a moment of self-reflection. Walter suggests that the difference between a winner and a loser in life isn't about talent or luck. It's about how they respond to failure and discomfort. A winner, in his definition, is someone who takes responsibility. When they fail, they ask, "What can I learn from this?" They see failure as feedback. A loser, on the other hand, makes excuses. They blame circumstances, other people, or bad luck. They see failure as an identity. Walter challenges listeners to make a definitive choice. This isn't about labeling yourself as a failure. It's about honestly assessing your current patterns. If you find yourself making excuses, you have the power to stop. The moment you stop making excuses and take ownership of your life and your choices, you cross the line from a passive loser mindset to an empowered winner mindset. It's a decision you make in every single moment. Chapter 14. Fall in love with the process. This chapter reinforces the system-focused philosophy from earlier, but adds an emotional component. Walter argues that it's impossible to sustain discipline over the long term if you hate the process. You may be able to white-knuckle your way through a month of a diet you hate, but you won't last a year. Therefore, the key is to find a way to enjoy the daily grind. This doesn't mean the work is always fun, but you must find meaning and satisfaction in the act of showing up. This involves reframing how you see the work. Instead of viewing your daily writing as a chore, view it as a craft you are honing. Instead of viewing your workout as punishment, view it as a celebration of what your body can do. When you fall in love with the process, discipline stops feeling like a sacrifice and starts feeling like a privilege. The work itself becomes the reward. Chapter 15. How to make your negative emotions work for you and not against you. Negative emotions like frustration, anger, and boredom are often seen as enemies of discipline. When we feel them, we tend to quit. Walter offers a different perspective. These emotions can be powerful fuel. He explains that the key is not to suppress the emotion, but to channel it. Feeling frustrated with your current financial situation? Use that frustration to fuel your discipline in building a side business. Feeling angry about your health? Use that anger to push harder in your workouts. Boredom is a signal that you are in a comfort zone and need to challenge yourself. Instead of allowing the emotion to be the reason you stop, allow it to be the reason you start. Ask yourself, how can I use this energy constructively? By transforming negative emotions into a source of motivation, you take away their power to derail you and add a powerful new tool to your discipline arsenal. Chapter 16. The Pareto Principle and Sturgeon's Law. Walter introduces two powerful mental models to help you focus your discipline effectively. First is the Pareto Principle, also known as the 80-20 rule. It states that, in many areas, 80% of the results come from 20% of the efforts. The implication for discipline is that you must be strategic. It's not enough to just work hard, you must work hard on the right things. Identify the 20% of your activities that produce the majority of your desired results and focus your discipline there. Don't waste willpower on trivial matters. Second is Sturgeon's law, which states that 90% of everything is crap. Walter uses this to manage expectations and combat perfectionism. Most of your initial efforts will be subpar. That's normal. The path to producing exceptional work is to produce a large volume of work and learn from your mistakes. Discipline, in this context, is the willingness to create the crap so you can eventually get to the good stuff. It frees you from the fear of being bad, because being bad is just a necessary step on the path to being good. Chapter 17, How to Avoid Burnout. Finally, Walter addresses a critical risk for the highly disciplined: burnout. He warns that discipline without rest is unsustainable. Just as athletes need recovery days, your willpower needs to recharge. He offers several strategies. Schedule rest. Just as you schedule work, schedule time for deliberate rest and recovery. Listen to your body. Fatigue is a signal, not an enemy. Pushing through exhaustion is often counterproductive. Vary your focus. Don't try to be disciplined in every area of your life at once. Focus on one or two key habits at a time. Practice self-compassion. Occasional slip-ups are inevitable. Harsh self-criticism depletes energy and motivation. Treat yourself with the same kindness you would a friend who is learning a difficult skill. Burnout is not a sign that discipline is bad, it's a sign that your system lacks balance. By building rest and recovery into your system, you ensure that your discipline can be sustained for the long term, turning a sprint into a marathon. Chapter 18, Conclusion. In the conclusion, Walter ties everything together. He reiterates that self-discipline is the ultimate meta-skill, the skill that enables all other skills. He reminds us that it is not an innate fixed trait, but a muscle that can be strengthened through daily practice. He leaves the reader with a powerful call to action. The choice is yours. You can continue to let your impulses and your biology dictate your life, or you can begin today to take back control. It won't be easy. It will be uncomfortable. But the reward is a life of purpose, achievement, and self-respect. The power to change is not in some future, idealized version of yourself. It's in the choices you make in this very moment. Key insights and takeaways. Let's distill the most valuable lessons from Daniel Walter's book into actionable insights you can apply immediately. 1. Discipline is a biological skill, not a moral virtue. Stop beating yourself up for lacking willpower. Understand that your brain is wired for short-term pleasure. The goal is not to eliminate impulses, but to strengthen the part of your brain that chooses long-term value. Practice pausing between the impulse and the action. 2. Start smaller than you think. Because of the Dunning-Kruger effect, we consistently overestimate our discipline. To build it effectively, start with ridiculously small habits. Do 1 push-up. Write 1 sentence. Meditate for 1 minute. Master the art of showing up, and the intensity can come later. 3. Systems over goals. Goals are important for direction, but systems are for progress. Stop obsessing over the outcome you can't control and pour your energy into the daily process you can control. Track your system, not just your goal. 4. Build discomfort tolerance. Your comfort zone is where your potential goes to die. Actively seek out small challenges that make you uncomfortable. This trains your brain to understand that discomfort is temporary and often a precursor to growth. Embrace the suck. 5. Eliminate try from your vocabulary. Try is a pre-excuse. Commit to do or do not. This forces radical honesty and increases your follow-through. If you say you will do something, treat it as a non-negotiable appointment with yourself. Conclusion. In a world that constantly sells us on the promise of quick fixes and effortless success, Daniel Walter's The Power of Discipline is a refreshing and necessary antidote. It reminds us of a timeless truth: there are no shortcuts to meaningful achievement. The path is built one difficult choice. one uncomfortable moment, one consistent day at a time. This book is not just about productivity or self-help. It's about freedom. It argues that true freedom isn't the absence of rules. It's the ability to choose your actions rather than being a slave to your impulses. Every time you exercise discipline, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. And over time, those votes accumulate, and your identity shifts. You stop being someone who is trying to be disciplined and become a disciplined person. The power to change your life is not in some future event, it's in your hands right now. It's in the decision to put down your phone and pick up the book. It's in the decision to start the task you've been dreading. It's in the decision to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Thank you for tuning in to Audiobook Insights. If this summary resonated with you, please show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Hit that bell icon so you never miss another deep dive into the books that can change your life. We're here to bring you the world's best ideas, one summary at a time. I'm your host, and I'll leave you with this. The book is the map, but you are the explorer. The knowledge is powerful, but its power is only realized in the doing. So go out there, take action, and build the life you're capable of. We'll see you in the next video.